some of you might be familiar with this book. It's the Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns by Nicolas Slonimsky. Now, basically, this is a mathematical approach to the 12 tones, as opposed to the traditional approach of diatonic scales that have a tonal center. When we break up the octave into equal parts, each one of the parts becomes prominent. We're not dealing with tonal center so much. So let's say, for example, I have the octave C. If I break it in two, tritone, so now the octave is broken into two equal parts. So that's the tritone. If we break it into three equal parts, C to E is a major third, E to A flat, or G sharp, is a major third, A flat to C is a major third. Now the scale is broken up into three equal parts, all major thirds. Now if we split the octave into four equal parts, we have the diminished seventh chord, what we call the diminished seventh chord. And although names like major, minor, and diminished augmented stop having their the same implication, the same meaning in this world of 20th century music. So that's splitting the octave into four equal parts. Minor third, C to E flat to G flat to A to C. So now we've split the octave into four equal parts. Now, very simply, how we make scales, how we make melodic patterns, is by doing things to each of these notes. So for example, if we took this C and F sharp, we put a half step before each one, half step before the next note, half step before the next note, and we've made a scale. We've made this, he calls it tetratonic. So I'll call this the tetratonic scale. It's a four-note scale. Now, the question that immediately comes to mind is, wow, that's a cool sound, or I have no use for that. If you have no use for it, then that's cool. Then this is not a discussion that maybe you want to get into. But if you are informed by the music of Herbie Hancock, John Coltrane, Wayne Shorter, we can go on and on, this is very much inside their vocabulary. And one question is, where can I use it? Now, one place that you can use it anywhere is over one chord. See, when we have 2-5-1, and if you were in one of my previous classes where I talked about guide tones, we hear the tendencies of the notes. So when there's going to be right notes and wrong notes because this chord has a definite place it wants to land. When we play on one chord, let's say just play on a G7th or G7th sus. Now I have my friend Pablo playing the G7th sus. Any note will sound fine. Right now I'm playing the notes, of course, inside the chord. But because now this environment that's being created has no place that it needs to go. It's completely satisfied being right there. Quite different than the G7 that we had before. So right now, there is no particular tendency. Please continue. There's no particular tendency, so if those notes are inside, but if I go outside it just creates a dissonance, but not necessarily a bad one. So our traditional thinking would say, oh, okay, well, if I'm going to play outside, I'm going to be as close as possible. So I'll maybe try and pick the outside notes that are as close. But because we're in a territory where it really doesn't matter, I'll play this first infra, inter, ultrapolation thing that we just discussed. And I'll play it from each of the points. See, it didn't really matter. I mean, of course it mattered in the sense that they each had a different sound. So I'm not saying that, but there wasn't one that was more correct. Because they were all, by traditional standards, all equally incorrect. But by the sound of modern music, they were all equally correct. So, just because the harmonic requirements have been relaxed doesn't necessarily mean that we can play bullshit. What it means is that just simply that some harmonic requirements are relaxed, but we still have to be interesting rhythmically, intervallically, melodically. So it's actually in many ways more challenging. The only thing we're not doing is we're not dealing with guide tones. B, C, D sharp, E, G, A flat. So we have a C, E, and a G in there. Now this is a symmetrical scale. So if anything we find along the symmetry of a major third, we're going to repeat again. There's an E, an A flat, and a B, or E, G sharp, B. There's also an A flat, C, an E flat, or D sharp. So all these notes, there we have the notes of the augmented scale expressed as three major triads. C major seventh, pure C major seventh chord. I'm going to hear that note and I'm going to hear that note in it. Those are the two out notes, but they get resolved. All the other notes are right in that chord. So the beauty of it is you do get two out notes. You don't try to avoid them. You embrace them, because this is the whole purpose of trying to work with these outside scales. You don't try to avoid them, you embrace them. So here's the scale. Now I'll do the same fingering, same scale, up a major third. And the same fingering, same scale up here. So as you can see, it works equally well. What I just did was as if he played C major seventh, as if he played E major seventh, as if he played A flat major seventh. We'll look at Wine and Roses, because that has some cool augmented possibilities. It has some cool diminished possibilities. Do you know that one? I'll play rubato first. The D7, that's from the diminished scale. That's a G minor. I'm going to use some augmented material. And then the B flat minor, major 7. augmented and from the diminished